Hi, everyone. We're so glad y'all joined us. I hope y'all are glad that we're back. Uh, it's been a month, I guess. Like we met in early August, and then we had our cookout, and so we didn't meet, and so now we're back. Do our nutter, and we probably pick a bad day to come back because it's Labor Day weekend, and so nobody is on live stream. Everybody is taking their last opportunity to go to the beach this weekend or to take a long 3-day holiday someplace or to be with their family for barbecues. So, I'll give my eye also to everybody who's going to be watching this on the replay when y'all see this recording later. So, someone asked in the chat, where can they get that Hesse from? That is one of the Hesse from the New Renaissance, which is Nasut's newest album. That's available on our website, templeofanew.org. So you'll want to pick up A New Renaissance Volume 1, Sound Current. It's a digital download. That song is one of the songs on the album. It's 10 songs. It's a beautiful album of Hesse that is like jubilant and energetic and just really powerful. Really amazing work that Lisa continues to do with music. And so if you don't have A New Renaissance, please make sure you download that today. And if you don't have the other downloads, they're also on our website. A New Radiance is there, and A New Ambiance, which are the first two albums in the A New series. So it's a whole trilogy now. To my nuts. All right. Before we go any further, let's open the way with our Sunday morning dua. Amatu impanatir, Sahuek tuament impanatir, Au duauma ketipa heru. The translation is give yourself to Netter daily, keep yourself for Netter daily, and do it tomorrow as you do it today. We give homage to the Creator, who is like our Father and who is like our Mother, who is everything that we can perceive and everything that we cannot perceive, who is everything and yet is no thing, who shines the light for us on the path of Ma'ati, which is the path of truth, justice, righteousness, and harmonious balance, who comes to us in the form of the light of vitality, giving us the strength and the endurance to live and act upon that which we know to be true. Homage to you, the one who shines in and through us as a beacon of light for those who are blind to the facts of their place, their position, and their responsibility in the divine scheme of things. May we be Ma'akiru, true of thought, word, and deed to our highest reality. And in the moments of crises, in the dark nights of the soul, when it appears that everyone and everything else let us down, so it is and so shall it be. Amen ma'at, everyone. Okay. Lastly, before we get into the message of the day, where y'all at? Who's online, and where y'all joining us from? Let's get into this roll call. Honking my eye, guys. Good to see you too, Jason.
Nebraska, right?
Lincoln, Nebraska. It's in the vault now. So on that, sir. New Haven, Connecticut is also on the line. Give thanks. There's more people on YouTube, but they haven't chimed into the chat yet. There we go. Bakersfield, California. Dua for joining us, Greta. That's what's up. Yeah, Dua Nectar. St. Louis. St. Louis in the house. Give thanks. Dua Nectar, Shahid. Cheryl is on the line from the DMV. Good to see you. Judy Rye is joining us from around the corner in Orange, New Jersey. Greensboro, North Carolina, checking in. Good to see you, Christian. Give thanks. So on answer. All right. Well, we're grateful that you all took the time out of your day today to be here with us. And so let's get into this. Let's get into this dialogue. You know, a few weeks ago, Nasit was doing his message on reconciling split energy, and I remember during the communion, I had a reflection hit me. Um, Uncle Ma'at to the session of Sue, representing PA, Delaware, and New Jersey. You can't.
I thought that was another mental. Like,
no, he in 3 states at once. I don't know. Doing that, sir. But yeah, in the middle of his message, I had a reflection about a post that I put on Facebook a few years ago. And so in that post, I said, you cannot ask Satesh to defeat the chaos in your life if you are the chaos in your life. And so over the course of the last few weeks, I've really been reflecting on that statement. At the time that I made the statement, where it was coming from was a recognition that we sometimes approach the Netzeru to seek their energy, to seek their power, their guidance, their wisdom, their support in bringing our lives in greater balance, right? Honestly, we should be doing it all the time, right? But what tends to happen, right, is that we become super aware and diligent and vigilant in using our spiritual tools when we're in need, right? And so we're in like that dark night of the soul. We're in that dark space. Our life is not in balance. And so then we start calling on the Netzeru. And we're like, please help us bring things into balance. Please help me to bring my life into alignment. Please help me to get out of this dark night of the soul. Please help me to have the way opened. And in the process of doing that, one thing I've noticed that many of us do is externalize what we're asking the Netzeru to shift for us. So we are like, our lives feel imbalanced, our lives feel like they're in disarray. And we're like, Netzeru, if only my manager at work would be nicer to me and would recognize the hard effort that I put in on my plans and would give me the raise and the promotion that I feel that I deserve. It's my manager who's holding me back. And it's my manager that's why my life is in disarray. Or we think like there must be someone in my friendship circle who is envious of me. And that person is throwing the evil eye at me. And they're thinking negative thoughts about me. And that's why my life is in disarray. So I need the Netzeru to come into my life and to help remove that obstacle from me. Keep me safe from the people who don't wish me well, right? Protect me from, I don't even know who the people are that's not wishing me well, but obviously somebody must be wishing me ill because my life ain't right. So go find who the people are and get them out of my life, right? If only my parents were different, if they were better, if they had known better, if they had done better, then my life would be better. Help my mama, help my daddy to be better to me, to support me better, to give me what I need. If only people had believed in me differently. I had somebody say that to me a few weeks ago. I was having a conversation and they were like, well, my business would be much further along if people would believe in me. It's not my fault. It's the people need to believe in me. And so again, what you're seeing is that pattern of externalizing. And it's not always about other people. It's just about external forces. It's not me. It's the job. It's the house. It's the people. It's the community. It's the family. It's something. It's somebody else's. We're looking outside of ourselves. We are choosing to find a place where we can assign blame and assign responsibility for our problems, our anger, our sadness, our pain, our disappointment. It can't be about me. It is about the people outside of me. It's gotta be, right? So we're calling the Netzeru to remove those obstacles so that if we remove the external force, then we don't have to feel those feelings anymore. And I'll be honest with you, it's much easier to blame an external force than it is to assume blame internally. Because assuming blame internally often results in the internalizing of negative emotions towards yourself. It means that you are now disappointed in yourself. It means you now feel guilty towards yourself. It means now you are now grieving the outcome of the decisions that you made and questioning yourself. Maybe you're like, am I even good at making decisions? Can I be trusted to make my own decisions? If my decisions have got me this far? So if we are blaming ourselves and we're internalizing that and we're having negative self-talk, then that's an obstacle too. So it's often easier to externalize. And I'm going to come back around to the conversation of blame in a second. But I want to just point out that how much of a habit we often have to point outward and then to ask the Netaru to address the external factors, right? And I think the reality of the situation is that if we're being very honest, yes, sometimes there is an external factor that is an obstacle to your growth. Sometimes there is something or someone that needs to be moved or changed or adjusted in order for to facilitate openness of energy and flow in your life. But most of the time, it's not external. Most of the time, it is our anger that we're unwilling to face or admit. It is our unwillingness to release our pain about the things that have happened and our pain and disappointment about things not happening the way we think they should have or the way we wanted them to. It is our, when we are unwilling to release pain and release anger, those emotions tend to start to degenerate into things like spite and vengefulness, right? And so then, now if you're harboring those types of emotions, now you become the chaos in your own life, right? Now you are the reasons why you're isolated because nobody wants to be around somebody who's spiteful. Now you're the reason why you are stagnant and are not making progress because your own need for vengeance is at odds with your request for justice. Right? You asking for ma'at, that's justice. You can't be looking for vengeance. But if you haven't released that need for vengeance, if you haven't released that spite, if you haven't released that disappointment, then you're at odds with your own requests to the Netaru. So as I was reflecting on this, I realized that the truth of the matter is that you can ask the Netaru to help you. You can't ask Satesh to remove the chaos in your life, even if you are the chaos in your life. But if you ask that, be very clear that you're going to be moved, right? You're going to be disrupted. Your life, your entire internal state, your emotional state, your mental state is going to be disrupted. You're going to be held accountable to yourself, to your ancestors, to your tradition, and to your beliefs. Accountability is not necessarily about other people. That's the thing that people tend to get mixed up. They think that like, oh, I have to hold you accountable or you have to hold me accountable. Accountability is an internal reflection. Like no matter how many times I tell you, you stepped on my foot and it hurt me, if you don't say, man, I didn't need to step on your foot and cause you that hurt, then you're just going to be like, well, I did, so, right? Or, well, that was your experience, so, right? And so being held accountable is a thing you have to choose to engage in. If you're not choosing to engage in accountability, then you're choosing to remain stagnant where you are. If you're asking for Satesh to remove the chaos in your life, then you're asking Satesh to push you out of your comfort zone. You're asking the Netaru to take you from where you are to take you to where you're trying to go. Okay? And you can't be trying to be comfortable. You can't be trying to be at peace with being moved. Disruption is not peaceful. Disruption is not smooth. It's not fun. It's unpleasant at bare minimum. And it could be completely terrifying and horrifying at its worst. If you're asking for the chaos in your life to change, you have to be forced to take hard looks at yourself. You're going to have to reevaluate your value system and how you're executing on that value system. You're going to have to think about the ways that you're showing up for yourself. Because again, it's different to say, I believe in this versus I live this. Right? So if you're asking for your life to be brought into better balance, you have to be brought into better balance by reevaluating your value system and your alignment with your own values. You have to release things that no longer serve you, which means admitting that it might have been good at one point, but it's no longer good now, right? And when we get stuck and stagnant in where we are and being who we are, right? Like this self, then I don't want to let go of the thing that used to be true for me. But again, it used to be true for me, but if I'm trying to grow into somebody else and move into a new state of existence, then that thing may not be true for me where I can't take it, I can't carry it with me. It's incompatible, right? It's energetically incompatible with the place I'm trying to go. And so I can't take it with me, which means I either leave it behind or I stay stuck where I am. And then ultimately, you have to integrate new truths into your being, new perspectives on yourself, on the world around you, on the people around you, new perspectives, new understandings, a deeper relationship with yourself and with spirit, right? All of that is part of the process of being moved and accepting disruption in your life. So the result of divine intervention is going to look like the complete destruction of your entire state of self. Your entire identity, depending on how much growth you have to do, your entire identity could be torn from the ground up. The foundation of who you are completely dismantled, torn apart in order to be made new, which is one of the most significant principles that we see in our tradition with the Sekhmet energy. Sekhmet is coming to destroy, not to be cruel, not to be harsh, not to be problematic. She's destroying because what exists cannot continue to remain. Right? Isfet cannot continue to remain. It cannot be allowed to thrive. And so rather than trying to build around chaos, rather than trying to build on top of chaos, right? Rather than trying to just like take a couple pieces out and hope it works, Sekhmet is like, get rid of it all. Destroy it. Let's start fresh. Let's start anew. Let's rebuild the entire self. Let's rebuild the entire community. Let's rebuild from the ground up as a means of restoring balance and bringing things back into the light. The reality is that once disruption becomes necessary, once you realize that you are in a state of chaos and disruption is necessary, you cannot find peace and power in that state of being. You can't. There is no staying where you are in chaos and like being the eye in the storm, and you're like, you have peace, but like your life is in chaos. You either gonna have to move from where you are, or you're gonna stay stuck. If you stay stuck, you die. Everything that does not grow dies, right? And I don't mean that like literally, although I guess it could be literally. I mean that figuratively. Your spirit dies, your motivation dies, your energy for life dies, your positive outlook on the world dies, your perspective die, right? Like your sense of motivation dies, your sense of creativity dies, right? Your willingness to live and to enjoy life dies. So you can stay where you are, or you can be moved. Another example of the importance of disruption actually comes in through our creation story. And in the creation story that we find sacred to us in the Temple of Anu, in the Anu or Iunu tradition, is the story of Ra emerging from the Noon. And in that story, we understand the Noon to be the pool of infinite potentiality, in which there is nothing but darkness and stillness. There is potential for many great things, but nothing exists yet, because there's just stillness, there's just quietude, there's just potential. And Ra has the desire to exist. He determines that he desires to have more than just potential. He determines that he desires for creation to exist. And he disrupts the peace and the stillness of the Noon in order to bring and emerge himself forth. And from that disruption, the Big Bang, that disruption, all of creation becomes possible. And it's not possible without that change. It's not possible without that eruption. It's not possible without Ra acting upon this place of stillness, creating this vibration that allows for change and pushing himself forth into existence. Even the process of giving birth on the physical plane is a manifestation or an example of what disruption looks like in practice. Disrupting your bones, your organs, pushing you to your limit as far as your pain thresholds, what you think you're capable of, finding out you're capable of more than you ever thought possible, sweating more than you ever thought possible, screaming more than you ever thought possible. Giving birth is a major disruption, right? It is an eruption. It is movement, and it is movement, right? And so it's a demonstration. These principles are demonstrations to us that if we also want to give birth to ourselves, we want to give birth to our projects, we want to give birth to our ideas, we want to be reborn into our new and truer selves, we have to choose to be disrupted. I was speaking about some of this earlier this week with Wabet Kisa, and she reminded me in our conversation that the motivating force for movement is often darkness. If things in your life are happy, you don't need to move. You settled, you satisfied, you good. It's when you start to experience pain. It's when things are starting to not make sense any longer. It's when things are starting to feel sad and overwhelming and burdened. It's when you feel that guilt. It's when you feel that disappointment. It's the encroachment of the darkness upon the light that causes you to realize that you need to move. When the darkness starts seeping into your reality, and let's be clear, darkness has to seep in on your reality. Light and love might be our preferred state of being. I know we as spiritual people love to talk about light and love, and we love to be saying we existed in light and love. But if everything was always light, we would always be comfortable. We would always be stagnant. We would never grow. We would never be pushed. We would never be moved. If we're always at peace, then we would never desire more. We would never have that feeling of desire, that feeling of the will, that feeling of, I see what I'm capable of, now let me see how I bring it forth. That same vibration that Ra felt in the noon, if everything is always at peace, then we never feel that urge to be more, to bring more, to give more, and to do more. You never feel that desire if you're always at peace. The essential truth of our legacy, really, is that we're here to experience the full range and spectrum of light and darkness. That's why you incarnated. That's why you're here. If you just wanted to be light, you didn't need a body for that. You could have stayed where you was, in union and oneness with the all, right? But at some point or another, your spirit, your vibration chose, right, to experience that disruption by bringing yourself here for whatever this life and this experience has to offer to you. And yes, I think I saw somebody said, wow, so there's balance for chaos. Yes, because my eye is not extremities. My eye is not in the extreme. My eye is not, if you talk about a scale from 0 to 10, and some of y'all have heard me say this before because I know I've said it before, but if you think about a scale from 0 to 10, my eye is not 0. My eye is not 10, because neither of those things are balanced. Balance is 5 on a scale. Balance is the middle. Balance is the center. Right? There's a reason why, as much as our stories, our ancestral stories talk about holding back APEP and smiting APEP and keeping APEP at bay, they don't actually ever get rid of APEP. Darkness must be kept at bay, but darkness has its place. And if we don't allow ourselves the full range of the human experience, right, then how are we as spiritual beings allowing ourselves to be fully cultivated through this experience? So in anything that you think about in this world, there has to be some measure of its opposite that's involved in the equation. None of us can ever be so masculine that we lack compassion, that we lack empathy or emotional intelligence, right? And none of us can be so feminine that we can't stand up for ourselves, that we can't assert ourselves or hold ourselves in high esteem. None of us can be so celestial that we fail to keep a job, that we can't maintain a home, that we can't manage our earthly affairs the way that we need to, right? You can't be so spiritual that you can't pay a bill. But you can't be so terrestrial that you're disconnected from nature, that you're disconnected from your soul, that you're disconnected from your spirit either. You cannot be so mature in this life that you forget how to have fun, how to play, how to laugh. I think social media had this thing on it that said, if a child hands you a toy phone, you answer it. You can't be so mature and so adult that you look at a child and be like, this is the toy. It doesn't really work.
I'm not gonna know.
Right. Like, who does that? But you also can't be so immature that you never take anything in life seriously. You cannot be so immature that you are absconding responsibilities, that you are doing the Peter Pan syndrome. You'll never want to grow up. You want to be a Toys R Us kid. We can't be so meditative in our lives that we get stuck, stagnant, and rigid. Right? You're so in loving the meditation that all you do is meditate and sit. Right? But you also can't be so active that you never take time for contemplation and rest. Meditation is the opportunity to contemplate, to get new insights, to see things deeper. But then you're supposed to use that insight. You're supposed to apply that insight. There still has to be some measure of action that comes after the meditation to integrate that new truth. And vice versa. You can't be so active that you never sit still and sit long enough with spirit for spirit to give you the insight that you need. You cannot be so light in this life that you never challenge yourself, that you never notice that there's untapped potential before you, that you never answer the call or the push to raise your vibration or take your vibration to its next level, take yourself to your next level. But you also can't be so dark that you never allow yourself to be at peace, that you're constantly looking for the next challenge, the next enemy, the next issue that must be addressed. That you can never thrive in peace because you only thrive in darkness and chaos. That's not right either. Okay? When I started thinking about not being too dark in your life, not embracing too much darkness, not indulging in too much darkness, it took me back to recent reflections that I've had and been working through on blame. Blame and responsibility are two ideas that I personally have been working through myself in my own journaling and meditation work, but also with the support of my therapist. Therapy for me has been a place where I get to untangle a lot of my thoughts and emotions. It allows me to process things in a way that is expansive from some of the other tools that I still use. And it allows me to help make my choices and my intentions clearer, right? And so for me, I'm very clear that like in a therapeutic space, you are processing and you are clarifying so that when you go out into the world, again, you can then be active in the world. You can then be productive in the world. You can be involved in the world, right? And to be clear, there are other spiritual tools that support this, not just therapy. Therapy is just one of many tools. I certainly, and I think Nassim would agree with this, that I think we would advocate for the idea of spiritual magicianship, right? Like being a spiritual magician, meaning you are a person who is aware of all the tools at your disposal, that you know how to use them, that you know how to yield them, and that you keep them in your toolbox, in your arsenal, and they're at the ready at any point in time that you need them, right? That's the ideal. So you can't wait until you need a screwdriver before you get a screwdriver.
Yeah.
As a spiritual magician, the screwdriver must already be in the arsenal. It must already be in the toolbox. And you also have to already know how to use it, right? And to be fair, it might be 10 years before you ever encounter a screw.
That's right.
But if you've never practiced with the screwdriver, then when the screw comes, you have no idea how to use it. You have no idea what that tool can do for you. You are unclear and unprepared for the challenge ahead of you. And so spiritual magicianship is the process by which all of our tools are activated. Tapping is activated, meditation is activated, journaling is activated, spiritual baths are activated, essential oils is activated, divination is activated. All the tools are activated. You don't got to use all of them all at once. You got to find the ones that best work for the scenario that you're in. Yes. So in these conversations that I've had, my therapist has consistently challenged me to think differently about the idea of responsibility and blame. I'll be very honest with y'all that I have had a lot of sense of guilt and grief over he just let it feel awkward to say this now. No, over my relationship with Nasa and our decision to end our marriage. That has given me a lot of guilt and made me blame myself for many things. When my best friend made her transition months ago, our relationship wasn't in the best place. I had a lot of guilt. I blamed myself for a lot of that. And so my therapist has consistently challenged me to think differently about blame. He is constantly asking me, why must the outcome of anything be anyone's fault, right? Why, just because this didn't go the way you wanted to go, why must it be a mistake? He asks me, what standards are you using to determine whether or not this outcome is good or bad? Where did that come from? Where did it come from? Like, where did you get this expectation about who you should be and how things should happen? Like, where did that come from? These are some questions that he's asked me directly over some recent conversations. And in our most recent discussion, I was reminded of a communion that I did for you guys a couple years ago, I think, where I talked about removing the value system when it comes to consequences. I don't know if any of y'all remember that. Give me like a thumbs up or something if y'all remember that conversation. But we talked about consequences, and we talked about how we talked about how the universe does not punish us. The universe do not blame us. They do not reward us. They do not punish. They do not reward. As far as Ma'a is concerned, as far as the Neteru is concerned, there is only cause and effect. There is only action and consequence. And the idea of punishment really is the idea that we place that we don't like this outcome, so it must be a punishment. But that's not a value system that comes from the universe. That's a value system that we impose on the phenomenon that's happening to us, right? Same as if we like the result. You know, we petition the Neteru and we get something that we like. We be like, oh, this is a reward. It's not a reward. It's just a consequence of it's the action and the reaction. And so, certainly, when things don't go as planned and things don't result the way that we've intended them to, it doesn't necessarily mean that you need to or that you should assume a sense of blame, right? Perhaps instead, we will be more productive by simply acknowledging that it is what it is. We make choices in our lives from where we are, and we live ourselves into the consequences of that. And the crazy part about it is that if you make a choice 3 months ago and you get the consequences today, you're not the same person that you was when you made that choice 3 months ago. You're not the same person. You may not have the same perspective. You have more life experience. You may have changed your mind about what you want. You may start to see things differently, right? Things have changed for for you, right? In your life and in your worldview. So we're looking at this choice, we're like, oh man, that was a crazy, why did I choose that? You chose that because you were who you were, and you were where you were 3 months ago, or 3 years ago, or 30 years ago, whatever the span of time. But you couldn't possibly have been this version of yourself when you made that decision in the past. You can't know at 17 what you're going to know at 37.
True.
You can't know at 37 what you're going to know at 57. There's no way. All you can do, really, is strive to make the best decision that you can in the moment that you're in, as the person that you are, with the information that you have. And then we have to live ourselves into those consequences. And when we do, accepting those consequences and just saying, it is what it is. No blame to my younger self. No blame to anybody. It's just action and reaction. So I realized that I understood that already. I understood that in theory already. And I realized that it was difficult for me to process that in real time. And that's what the dismantling looks like in real time, right? The dismantling in real time looks like facing those ugly emotions, the blame, the disappointment, the shame, the self-loathing, the pain, and transmuting them, understanding them, and releasing them. So that's the hard work. I was about to say, so the hard work will be done. No, that's the hard work. Dealing with those feelings, they're going to come up. It's natural for you to feel that way. It's natural for that to happen. The journey is in how you respond to that happening. Do you face? Do you process? Do you transmute and release? Or do you stay stuck in the blaming, in the anger, in the darkness, in the chaos? I definitely realized that the work of engaging in the process fully, of allowing myself to be disrupted, has required a high level of vulnerability and resilience, even in the face of fear, hesitation, and insecurity. You don't know who you're going to be on the other side. You know what you're asking for, maybe. You're like, I might know what I might want, but when I get there, what I get and who I am might be so much better and so much different than anything I could have ever imagined. The nectar is beyond our ability to perceive it fully. So perhaps I am too. Perhaps I can't even perceive of the greatness that I still have yet to offer. And all of that can be daunting and intimidating. But our charge as Kemau is to be steadfast of purpose. So that even in face of that fear, even in the face of that insecurity, even for the need of vulnerability, we are still knowing that we have to be moved, knowing that we have to move forward, knowing that we have to allow the disruption to happen. And for me, being steadfast of purpose has meant, first and foremost, giving myself grace for how slow my dismantling process seems to be going. Because that word seems is a judgment word in the first place, right? It's all about your perception. So here I am saying, it feels like my transformation is slow, my growth is slow, am I resisting? It's not going the way. This is my journey. It's going the way that it's supposed to go. It's moving at the speed that it's meant to move at. Give myself grace. Give yourself grace. Don't judge yourself about where you should be and why haven't you got further along. Looking instead of being in the future where you're so focused on the point you're trying to get to, or focusing on the past and dwelling on what you had to get out of and how hard it was to dig out of what you had to get out of. Be where you are. Exist in the moment where you are. Learn the lessons from the place and the space that you're in now. Take it one step at a time. We don't need to, we should not be living in the future or living in the past. We should be living in the now and allowing the lessons of the now to give us and feed us in preparation for the next. Being steadfast of purpose has also meant for me allowing myself to be pushed by others. Allowing others to see what I'm trying to do. Allow others to tell me when they think they can help and how. I don't always have all the answers. And even when I think I have the answers, I'm still having a human experience like all the rest of us. It's very, very different to talk about ideas and concepts in theory than the lived experience of it. Disruption is painful. Talking about disruption is not painful. Disruption is painful.
True.
And so if I'm striving to be disrupted, then I have to have other people around me who support me in that, who have my back in that, who reflect me back to myself, who don't let me resist my process, right? Who challenge me to continue to move forward, who remind me that they believe in me, that I need to believe in myself, right? Having community of support has been essential in causing me to be steadfast of purpose. Again, requiring vulnerability so that my community can be there for me. And then lastly, steadfastness of purpose for me has meant prioritizing myself as the project that needs improvement. It's not a moment to externalize and to look around and see is it someone else's fault? Is it someone else's influence? Is someone in the spot that I want to be in? Does someone else need the help? And maybe I shouldn't be working on myself and I need to give them the help and the support, right? Like all the looking outside and sending your energy outside of yourselves means that the tasks that need to happen here ain't happening. Because if your energy is directed into somebody else's business, then it's not being directed into your business. It's not being directed into you. And the dismantling and the disruption and the rebuilding that needs to happen here. So for me, steadfastness of purpose has meant being self-centered. And I don't mean that like being conceited or arrogant. I mean that as centering myself as the most important aspect of my existence. And understanding that if I'm not good, then me helping somebody, how can I help somebody else when I'm not good? How do I have what it takes to give to them if I haven't first fed myself?
Right.
Even on the airplane, they tell you put your own mask on first.
Right.
How can I fill someone's cup if my cup is empty? I know that last one is cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. That's why we hear it all the time, because it's true. So in this season, as we getting into the fall equinox, and the fall equinox representing the season of reconciliation and resolving energies and issues from the past, think about what beliefs, what ideas from yourself need to be disrupted, need to evolve in order for you to come to a space, evolve and grow into a space of greater peace and greater balance, right? Because you cannot resolve relationships externally if you don't first resolve the relationship here. Resolve first. So first and foremost, resolving and deciding that you no longer want to stay in a place of chaos, resolving and deciding that you no longer want to hold on to past issues, resentments, disappointments, fears, resolving first and foremost that you are going to go through this process no matter how painful it is. And that actually is going to set us up to be in the best place necessary for us to resolve relationships externally, builds and rebuilds relationships with people who matter to us, people who have been good to us, people who have supported us. The opportunity for us to do that at the fall equinox will be multiplied by the efforts that we put in to bring our own selves and our own hearts into greater peace, because that is what then extends outward into our families and into our communities. So face your disruption head on. Face it like a spiritual magician. Face it like a spiritual warrior. Don't shy away from the pain and the chaos that the disruption might feel like it's more chaos, right? Because it is it's a dismantling. Don't shy away from that feeling of greater chaos. Don't shy away from that feeling of everything falling apart, because once things fall apart, then now you have a clear, fresh state for things to be rebuilt, and the possibilities at that point are endless. So that's it for today.
Yeah, excellent lesson.
Do on that, sir. Do on that, sir. I appreciate y'all time. I really do. And if you all got anything from this message, we encourage you to share reciprocity with us through your donations. Donations can be sent by Cash App to $Temple of Anu, or by PayPal to templeofanew@gmail.com. Excuse me. We appreciate y'all energy and your support. And we will be back here in this space in 2 weeks on Sunday, September 17th for our next regularly scheduled communion. That's it?
I think so.
All right. Show me what's up, everybody.
Show me what's up.